first up, what I really want to know is how did you get involved with working at Valvoline Raceway? I know you were like a long-time fan, and then I think maybe you offered some advice to maybe like Steve Green, or kind of put your hand up, with the managing the management at Valvoline Raceway. How did all that get started?
Oh, look, I think it was just at a time when I was sort of heading back there quite frequently with Dad, because he's, that's Speedway on Saturday became his time and my time together. So it was kind of like our little bit of bonding father-son time
Sure.
together. And I think we started going at a time, well, returning there at a time when the track was sort of coming up for the new lease sort
Yep.
of thing, the changeover, and whether or not, to be honest, I didn't know what was happening in behind the scenes. And
Sure.
I think I must have heard somewhere or read somewhere that Steve Green was going to take over
Yep.
with the backing of Barry and Felicity. And yeah, I basically started just conversing with Steve, and it all started from there. Just chatting about things and Sydney entertainment options for people, and the sport in general and things like that. And yeah, it just sort of snowballed from there.
You got talking with Steve, but with your background, what did you see missing? Because once you got involved in that job, you not only did you work with like Valvoline Raceway and their marketing campaigns, but you created the USC. You worked on the whole ClayPerView idea streaming service, and not just at Valvoline Raceway, but there's also they acquired Toowoomba Speedway and also Murray Bridge Speedway. What, like what did you have to do with all that, and what did you see missing at the time?
Oh, look, for me, it was always the sport was there, the racing was fantastic, all the ingredients were there. It's just, for me, there wasn't just a single brand, an umbrella brand above everything that sort of encapsulated, something. I guess that just sort of held a championship apart from a track. So whenever I'd sort of go to Parramatta, it was because the track is so iconic. It was to me, what was missing was the fact that you need something linked to the track. You can't just kind of go to see a track. You don't go to just see Stadium Australia. You go to see the NRL there or something like that. I think for me, there not being a really simple, strong brand that people outside of Speedway could kind of latch onto, that was the only thing missing for me. Everything else was there. Everything else was there. The racing was there. The excitement was there. The cars, the drivers. I mean, I've got so much respect for anyone who sort of straps themselves into any vehicle in that place. I've got so much respect for, and they put on a great show. It just needed that brand to sort of be a North Star for people to follow, kind of like supercars, I guess. It's you don't go to Bathurst to watch, to just sort of go to a track. You go, yes, the track's iconic, but you go to watch something, which is the supercars, and all the communications come from supercars. It's not from the track.
Yeah.
So to me, it just needed that sort of branding on top, a lot like World Series sprint cars. And, with all the three tracks, it just needed something to sort of just start linking them together. So rather than, having to, I guess reinvent the wheel at each track every time there's an event, if it's all under the USC, it makes it a lot easier to sort of keep pushing from there and communicating with people. So yeah, to me, everything was there. It just needed that.
So once you became a part of the team at Valvoline Raceway, what was your plan? What were the steps? Because it was rolled out in a way that seemed pretty well thought out over a period of time. Like you had this vision stored in your head, and you were finally able to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, I think for me, the plan was to make Speedway more mainstream, just a mainstream sport, to not be seen as just this sort of poor cousin to other kinds of motorsport, sort of just the bogan sort of sport, that's got to be the plan, to mainstream this, to get on the shopping list of mums with kids on a Saturday night, to get on their entertainment shopping list, to kind of go, right, actually, I'll go here to watch the USC. It's a legitimate, sporting, brand and a category. So basically, together, and look, it was difficult. Anything like that concerns change is difficult, but I was lucky enough to kind of come in at a time where people were open to buying into everything. So I had Steve Green, I had Wade Oranger, Gavin Skeen, Darren Shattuck, Will, Neil. There was a great team there, and then of course there was the belief from Barry and Felicity that we could start something amazing, and just, I guess, put a new paint job on everything. And then, obviously getting the associations on board, getting the teams and the races excited, getting the fans excited. So the plan was basically create this brand that could sort of lift everything else, I guess, and make it I guess, I don't know, make it relevant and cool again.
Yeah.
Because I think out in society, and look, you've got to have these hard conversations when you come into these markets, and you've got to kind of go, right, what's our problem? And one of the problems was that Speedway was often seen as a sport from the late 80s, and it's like, well, it's bullshit. It doesn't have to be like that. So it's all about perception. So it's kind of like, okay, the plan was to bring it forward.
It might be biased, but I really believe that we have like such an entertainment sitting there ready to be, marketed right. And that's really what you did. And it was so successful. I know as a driver, and just the vibe around the track for those first couple of years was so good. There's obviously a lot of money being spent, which is fantastic. But no, there was a really good vibe at the racetrack. But the USC had a really big first year, where it seemed to be really the new World Series Sprint Car as the main series here in Australia for sprint car racing. And even with World Series still there, you even had Jeff Gordon comment on the USC when he visited. What exactly did he say to you? And give us some context about that.
Oh, look, I was sort of in fan mode at that point. It was sort of towards the end of the night, and I'd just gone up to sort of get a photograph with him, and I just kind of introduced myself to him and said, I'm sort of part of the marketing team here, and what do you think? What do you think of the night? And luckily it was a really good night. It was exciting racing. I think Casey Kane was there and all those kind of guys, so he'd come to watch Casey. And he just said, man, you guys are doing it as good, if not better, than anyone else in the world at the moment. And at that point, I just kind of went, right, cool, job done. That was a little accolade, for the whole team, that I just kind of go, right, here's a guy who's seen it all, and to have him sort of give that sort of praise onto this little team in Sydney, it was really good. I was really proud of that.
Were you disappointed to see where the USC is now? I guess like it's a question that asks you to be pretty honest now, but that first year, like I said, as a driver and someone involved heavily in the sport, it just felt like we finally had something to be really proud of and push on with. There was the Ultimate Sprint Car TV show that was on 7 Mate free to air network here in Australia, and it really was just a good vibe. Like I said before, there was a lot of money being spent, but it seemed like it had purpose, and not just your team there that was working on it, but every driver and team and even all the fans were really buying into it. And it seemed to, like I said, we had something to be proud of and to grow.
Yeah, look, I think it's still there. I think the thing with a brand is once you've created it, you've got to feed it. And that's often the difficult part, is to kind of do the what's next, what you know, how do we push it from here, how do we get it further from here, you know. And obviously, you know, depending on, you know, there's a million different factors that sort of go into the health of a brand, and you know, an association, I guess, or, you know, just the sport in general. That, you know, so I guess some years it'll sort of dip, but then, you know, hopefully around the corner we can just, you know, give it a little bit more of a kick up the butt, and, you know, whoever's, you know, running the show will be able to sort of inject that, you know, first sort of couple of years of I guess excitement, and you know, just I guess build it again. But, you know, it's hard to keep maintaining it. You know, that's the hard part. You know, you need to maintain stuff, and, you know, and I know how hard this is the thing. I know how hard it is and how hard everyone works. So
Yeah.
I'd never you know, I'd never want to kind of say anything because I guess I don't know, since being out of it for a while, I don't know the politics that have gone along with it, and what councils have done, and all this kind of stuff. So there's all these factors that, you know, people just aren't aware of. So, you know, I always found it amazing that, you know, just to put cars driving in a circle was so difficult.
Yeah.
You know, you'd think it would be really easy, but just to drive in a circle is really, really hard.
So now I want to ask you this, your opinion on it, but I'm going to say my opinion. I want to ask it like tactfully. I'm really disappointed, like a lot of others, how Valvoline Raceway is closed. Once the news came out, the owners of Valvoline Raceway were rightfully pissed off with the way it was delivered. They begged for support from fans. There were petitions with tens of thousands of people that were signing it to save the track. The track was pushing hashtags and slogans. Meanwhile, the government announced that they would work with the current VR owners to build a new track. The VR owners were adamant that they wanted it at a different location, or a certain location, and the government didn't seem keen on that. And then communication sort of broke down, and then it was announced by the government that they'd be building a track at Eastern Creek, which wasn't actually far from where the VR owners wanted the new track built. COVID hit, that ended the season early for us. And then Valvoline Raceway has, I mean, let's be honest, been really slack with communication to race teams and the public about what's going on with it all. If anything, it's been really disappointing. What do you think of the way VR has closed? Because it's pretty sad.
Oh, look, I think it's disappointing, and I think everyone's disappointed, and I think everyone's upset and sort of going through a grieving period. And you know, which is just a natural human reaction. So first there's sadness, and then there's anger and all this kind of stuff. Look, I personally believe that those in charge would have done anything to get racing again. Like, I mean, if there's one thing I've learned about everyone in this sport, is that everyone just wants to go racing. And you know, I'm not privy to all the conversations with government and councils and all this kind of stuff, but I'm sure that everyone would have been trying their best to try and at least get, I guess, a farewell adios event up and running. But I guess it was just the victim of the ultimate perfect storm. That's what's happened to this. And it's just, the timing has just been awful. Like, I mean, if it wasn't, you know, I mean, you think about it, if we were just coming out of COVID now and there wasn't the new development plans for the area going up, I mean, we you know, we'd probably be racing next week, you know, or, you know, when I say we, I mean, you know, all the teams and that. But I think it was just, I think it was just victim of a really, really bad timing. And I think they're actually doing a sort of a farewell in the car park
next week, in a week's time.
Or something like that. So look, that to me says that they're trying. You know, they've obviously they're obviously listening to everyone. And, obviously, you can't just, in times like this, it's hard to sort of communicate with every person who's angry and upset. And you've just got to kind of, it just becomes quite difficult to sort of placate, a lot of emotion that's going around. But, I'd be sort of saying to people, look, at least, as you can see here, they're getting everyone together for a last farewell. That's better than nothing, in my opinion. So, I think everyone's heart's there in the right place. It's just, there's just things out of people's control.
No, you're right. It really was the perfect storm between the announcement of when they wanted to, that the track was going to be closed. A few months later, COVID hits. And then you would know, obviously, as we've spoken about before, that all the money and time and effort that and work that went into the Speedway, I'm sure they weren't just happy to close it down.
No. And look, I went back there as a fan for a long time after I finished my tenure there. And, you run into people and you have conversations, and look, everyone's still, at the end of the day, they just want to race. They just want to put on a show, and they want to race. And that's the drug to them, and that's what they want to do. So I think if they could have, they would have moved heaven and earth to do it. And I know that in the background, there would have been a lot of people working really, really hard to try and do as best as they could to either save the track or, give it the farewell it deserved. And, at least there's something now that people can kind of go there and have a little bit of bit of closure, I guess.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Sprintcar Hub YouTube channel. You can also find Sprintcar Hub on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for watching.